I guess that's a little better. It's going to be Dutch no matter what I do with it. But welcome, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining me. Today, I'm going to look at some Star Trek trivia and see if I can still Star Trek. I have been a little rusty lately with my Star Trek knowledge, trying to kind of beef myself back up in it, and I thought I've been wanting to kind of just test myself and get back into it a little bit with this book, Obsessed with Star Trek. I've used this on the channel before, but this is one of the best resources for Star Trek trivia, and it's fun because it's got this digital module that lets you jump around. There's 2,500 questions. It lets you jump all over the book, and it tests you on all 5 of the Star Trek series that we had before the Abrams reboot and before New Trek and all of that. So, the stuff I really care about. And I thought I'd spend maybe an hour or so just jumping around this book and answering as many of the questions as I can and see what percentage I end up with. And we'll see if I do really well or if this ends up being kind of embarrassing. We'll see what happens. I've been watching a decent amount of TNG lately. And again, just kind of getting my head back in it. And sorry, I'm a little bit distracted because I'm trying to do a new setup today with a mount in my car, and it's a little sideways. I'm having a hard time getting this set up to where it's not just a goofy Dutch angle. It's the only way I do it. It's kind of Dutch, but whatever. You can see me, and it's not bouncing around, and that's all that really matters. So anyway, without further ado, I don't know. Let's go ahead and start taking a look at this. You'll have to bear with me because I'll need a little bit of time just to get to each page with this. This book came out in 2011, so a few years before the 50th anniversary, but well after we had the 5 series up through Enterprise and after the first Abrams movie. And I don't know if this has questions from that movie at the end of it. It might. I forget now. But anyway, it goes through the series in order. It's even got some TAS stuff. I forgot about that. And actually, I think we're going to wind up in TAS here, possibly. But it goes through the 5 series, and then it does some other categories after that. You can set this up to where you can answer the questions completely in order, which I thought about doing, just answering every single question in order until I just don't have time to do it. But we'd be doing nothing but TOS, and I have not been looking at a lot of TOS lately. So I'm really rusty there. And I mean, there was a time where I knew my TOS a lot better than I do now. I need to go back and do a run through it because it's been a while. Lately, I've been watching a bunch of season 5 and 6 TNG, so hopefully some of that comes up. And this will be a little bit of luck, probably, because I mean, luckily this is all multiple choice. So I've at least got a decent shot knowing what I know. But the frustrating thing about it is sometimes there's just some unfair kinds of questions. This is some of the best written Star Trek trivia I've seen, and I've delved into a lot of this stuff. I'm a big Star Trek reference collector, and I've seen a lot of really piss poor, written Star Trek trivia. But this does fall into the trap of numbers nobody cares about. Not as bad as, I don't think, as like, what's the number on the door of Kirk's quarters and stuff like that. Who could possibly care? But it will do a lot of, like, did this thing happen 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, or 10,000 years? And I'm like, I don't remember, nor do I care. Anyway, let's get into it. So, 186, what ethnicity was Ensign Dawson Walking Bear? We're off to a great start here because we're in the middle of the animated series now, which is not a series that I consider canonical. and I don't know super well. I've seen all of it, but it's been forever. So yeah, we're starting in with a rough one. What ethnicity was Ensign Dawson Walking Bear? Well, actually that's gonna be pretty obvious though, with the multiple choice. So that's good. Chinese American, Native American, African American, or Japanese American. Gee, that sounds like a Native American name to me, does it not? And look, I got it correct. I am 1 for 1 with 100% of my questions answered correctly. Now, that's good. This does keep track of your percentage, which is really nice. And now we go to 997. Looks like we're in the middle of Deep Space Nine here. Who became Grand Negus after Zek retired? Well, of course, that's going to be Rom. Spoilers for Deep Space Nine, but we get that right at the end in the finale. Brunt, Nog, Quark, or Rom. Quark thinks that he's going to get it, but in fact, his brother Rom shockingly gets it right at the end. And that is Max Grotenchik, who is a really cool guy. I've met him before. 765. Welcome, everybody. If you're just joining me, I'm seeing how much I still know about one of my favorite things, and one of the things that I'm most knowledgeable about with Star Trek, which is and I used to consider myself a Trekspert, but I have been so out of the loop for so long. And I don't mean out of the loop in that I don't watch new Star Trek, because I just can't even think of it as still Star Trek, at least a lot of it, but more that just I don't run a Star Trek club anymore. I don't do this stuff every day like I used to. And if you don't practice it, you lose it. So that's where we're at. Well, I'm 2 for 2. So that's good. Hi there, Thomas Ledbetter. Good to see you. Thanks, CG Anime Fan, for your compliment on my outfit. What is the Jem'Hadar's personal invisibility effect called? Cloak, dagger, shroud, or mask? That would be a shroud. And I got that correct. I'm at 100% so far. That's exciting. I was a little nervous when we started with TAS, but 203. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. Oh, real quick plug for a stream I'm doing late tonight. I'm going to come back for another Batman 89 commentary, finally. 89 for 89. I'm on commentary number 9, and I'm going to watch the fan-edited silent film version, which I'm really excited about. I put a link to that so you can watch it along with me in the community tab. And it is the same length as the movie, which I was really surprised by. I thought it was going to be shorter. So it is 2 hours. So you can theoretically watch the regular movie with me, I guess, but it's not going to line up exactly. And why do that when you could watch this with me? It's free and fan-made. Let's see real quick. Apologies, what people are saying here. Why is my chat not popping up? Well, okay. I'll look again when someone else makes a comment. 203. What is the only crime punishable by death according to Starfleet regulations? General Order 3, mutiny. General Order number 1, breaking the Prime Directive. Visiting Talos 4 is number 7, and destroying a planet is 24. Well, I feel like some of those other things, maybe if you're going to have a death penalty, we don't have to have a debate about that right now, but probably destroying a planet, should be in there. But hilariously, it's just visiting Talos 4. We open right out of the gate with the cage, with here's the one horrible thing that you can do. Well, I say the cage. I guess we don't get that there. We get that later in the two-parter Menagerie. But anyway, 2310. 2310. Having to jump back and forth. This book is really well used now, and I should probably replace it at some point. How did the V'ger entities, so this is going to be motion picture, store the information it collected? Binary code, trinary code, holographic data patterns, or bioneural circuitry? This could be the place where we get in trouble. My first guess, and usually you want to go with your first guess if you don't immediately know it, with your gut, is binary code. It's not going to be holographic, and it's not bioneural, I'm almost certain. So it's going to be binary or trinary. And I'm going to kick myself if it's trinary, but I'm going to go with binary. And that is wrong. It is, oh, it is holographic data patterns. Weird. I don't remember that. I don't know my motion picture super well, though. So yeah, again, I'm having a hard time bringing the comments up here on just the phone. Binaural is definitely a Voyager thing, if memory serves. Yes, the binaural gel packs. That is correct. Thomas Ledbetter, what determines the number for the questions you pick in the book? So there's this little digital module thing here that randomizes it for me. And so each time I do a question, it just pulls up the next one and gives you a number there. So the next one is 1618, and that's what I'll pull. These are neat. They don't make these anymore, unfortunately, but there's one for like old TV trivia, and there's one for Marvel Comics that I have. I'm terrible at that one. And there's one for Star Wars, which I've never bought because I'm not a big Star Wars trivia guy. But anyway, so 1618. Is this angle driving anybody else crazy? I keep thinking about trying to fix it again, but it's not bothering anybody else. I'll just keep it. 1618. Like I said at the start, I got a new mount today, and I'm kind of struggling with where to put it. Okay. Which of Khan's disciples manned the Reliance helm and weapon stations? Joachim, Jeddah, Beach, or Malik? I say Malik. I don't think it's Malik. I think they pronounced it Malik in that. I might be wrong. So it's between Joachim and Malik, or Malik. This is, of course, Wrath of Khan. Who had the helm? I think maybe Malik had the helm, and Joachim was maybe like the right-hand guy. Okay, I'm going to go with Malik, and I'm going to kick myself if it's Joachim. I am wrong. It is Joachim. God bless America. Okay, well, so I'm 4 for 6 right now. I'm at 67%, which is a D at the moment. We'll see if we can beef this up a little bit. 1526. Can Cap still Star Trek? That's the question. And it is dicey. It is up in the air right now. How many different actors portrayed Spock in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock? 2, 3, 4, or 5. So obviously you've got Nimoy, and then there's like a baby, and then there's a teenage version. And is there like a teenage and then like a slightly older young adult version that's the one that copulates with Saavik? It's 3 or 4. I'm going to go with 4. And I am wrong. 5, apparently. Wow. Okay. I would have gotten that wrong regardless. Okay, I don't need softball ones. I'm okay with challenging, but the numbers are the things that really throw you off. Who served, so this goes all the way back to early TOS, who served as chief medical officer during Captain Pike's command of the Enterprise? Elizabeth Daner, obviously not. Mark Piper, Mbanga, or Philip Boyce? I think it's Boyce, right, in the cage? Yes, I am correct there. All right, well, let's try to redeem ourselves if we can here. Everybody sound off in the comments. What series would you do best with of the original 5, TOS through Enterprise? What series would you be most confident going up against me in a trivia battle? 1985, 1985. How big was the Borg Unicomplex? These are just a bunch of Borg questions, I guess. I was looking for a specific series. 600. See, these are the things. Why would I know this? Specifically, 600 kilometers, 900, 1200, or 20,000. I don't know. You just gotta guess here. I'm gonna go with C. I'm gonna go with 1200, and I am wrong because who could possibly care? But 600 kilometers was the correct answer. A second, I want to have a clock on hand here. I am hanging out, waiting for my son. He's at a ballet practice today. He has a big role in a ballet. Jason's a dancer, and so he's got some extra practices he has to go to. 2203, what type of directed energy weapons were used on Jem'Hadar's ships? Phasers, tachyon spreads, nucleonic beams, or phased polaron beams? Yeah, I don't know this one right off either. Nor am I going to feel all that less of a Star Trek fan by not knowing it. But it's gonna be... I mean, obviously it's gonna be better than phasers. I don't think it's tachyon spreads. And phased polaron beams sounds like a thing that comes up more in DS9. So it's that or nucleonic. I'm gonna go with D. Hey, I got it. Sweet. All right. Well, at least one of those kind of random who is likely to remember that kinds of questions I got. 737? 737. Sounds like an airplane. .737. What was the race of clones that served in the Dominion called? Well, or what was the... That is the Vorta... No. Well, yes. Vorta are the clones. Sorry, I'm just looking at the answers. Vorta are clones, and Jem'Hadar are built but not clones. So it should be Vorta. Yes, that is correct. And the unfortunate thing is, I think there are at least a few questions built into this module where the answers are not right, but hopefully we don't hit any of those. 640. And because I'm a crazy Star Trek reference collector, I actually have this book twice. I've got one without the module. They made that for whatever reason, but I need to buy another one of these with the module because it's starting to fall apart a little bit. Who was the new chief of Stellar Sciences? Sorry, I'm not loving the way this question is worded. Who was the new chief of Stellar Sciences officer Picard fell in love with but granted a transfer off the ship? Well, that, of course, is Nella Darren. Nella Darren in a wonderful episode called Lessons, which I think is season 6. Nella Darren, Kiros, Kelsey, and Penny Marak. Well, Penny Marak is, or I'm assuming, I don't know if we ever knew the last name, but there's the girl in Tapestry that he gets the water thrown in his face with. That was a Penny, who he calls handsome. 2263. Part of the reason I wanted to do this on camera was because a few folks have been asking me for more Star Trek content, and I have just not had the chance lately to do very much. We've been working on the movie, and so we haven't been doing Star Trek Club, and I don't know if we're bringing that back or when. I'm so busy with other projects on my kids and stuff, but I would like to occasionally do Star Trek things if we can find spots for it. Who became acting captain of the USS Valiant? Nog, Tim Waters, Karen Ferris, or Dorian Collins? That is Nog in... What? Oh, no, he wasn't the captain. See, this is how rusty I am. No, that's right. He just worked on the ship. B, Tim Water. Yeah, it's been too long. That is Red Squad. I forget the name of that episode. They should just call it Red Squad. That would make it easier for me to remember. 708. I like jumping around series and categories more than I like doing this in order, but I mean, there's advantages to both, because this gives you a lot of variety, but if you go in order, you get your head in one series, and you might be able to delve into the depths of your memory a little bit better. So we've done 13 so far, and I have answered 8 out of 13 correct, which is not the best. I mean, it's obviously not the best, but it's not great. What sport Dr. Bashir and Chief O'Brien regularly compete at? Handball, racquetball, squash, or tennis? Later, of course, it becomes darts, but early on, it was racquetball. Yes, racquetball is correct. They had those space rackets. And it's funny because there's an episode of TNG. It's the one where Crusher is dealing with the death of a Ferengi scientist. What is that? Suspicions. And there's a racquetball racket. Well, there's a tennis racket in that looks a lot like the kind of space racquetball rackets they do in Deep Space Nine. And I wonder if they just brought one of those over because DS9 had started by then, and I think they already had the racquetball thing. Maybe. I mean, like, those guys weren't great friends yet, but I think they already had racquetball by that point, or maybe it wasn't until season 2. This is how much I'm not remembering. Anyway, the energy field that controlled the Enterprise computer in The Practical Joker was composed of what? So that's TAS. Charged vacuum emboitments, sentient ambiplasma, highly charged subatomic particles, or reverse chronotons. Well, that sounds like a Voyager thing. It's not going to be that. What is the most cartoony and goofy of these, technobabbly of these? I'm going to go with, it's either going to be A or B. Let's say sentient ambiplasma. That sounds like a TAS kind of thing. I am wrong. It is, oh, it's C. It's highly charged subatomic particles. That's kind of surprising, actually. Well, I'm getting some of the weird ones, folks. Give me some normal questions here. Who brought the Bajoran poet Akeem forward 200 years in time? Dukat, Kaiwin, the Prophets, or Benjamin Sisko? That sounds like a Prophets thing. I forget exactly now. But I don't see how that would be a thing that Dukat or Wynn would do. And if Sisko did it, it would be through an artifact or something, probably. So let's just say the Prophets. That sounds, I mean, yeah. It's the only thing it could be, right? I guess it decided I needed a softball question there. 2406. Oh, same page. What, or same spread of pages anyway. What was Smiley's slave classification in the Mirror Universe? So Smiley is O'Brien, his mirror counterpart, what we would call these days with the Marvel multiverse a variant. Slave classification: Gamma, Theta, Alpha, or Beta. Yikes! It's been too long. Is it Gamma? Wow. I don't think that's a thing I even ever asked back in Star Trek Club. Theta. Okay. Boy, it's been too long. Jason likes the mirror episodes of Deep Space Nine a lot more than I do, and I don't go back to them a ton. 1700. The first couple are the best of them. The first one probably is the best of them. One of them is Through the Looking Glass. Is that the first one? I don't think it is. Whose cameo lines were deleted from the final cut of Nemesis? Kate Mulgrew, Will Wheaton, Armin Shimmerman, or Whoopi Goldberg? Well, Will Wheaton, I know, was there and didn't get to say anything. And that is correct. Yeah, if that's not what they wanted, I would have been really surprised. Pretty sure Armin Shimmerman was never on that set. 1864. The category is Starfleet personnel files. Okay. Back to DS9 though. How old was Kira when she went on her first mission for the Shakar resistant cell? Again, these numbers, we just have to remember a specific age: 11, 12, 13, or 18. Of course, she tells a story where she says what age she was. I think it's 11 or 12. Let's go with 12. And watch us be wrong. It is wrong. It is, oh, it is 13. Okay. Great. I'm only at 58% right now. Can I still Star Trek? You guys be the judge, because a lot of these are not the sorts of questions that I ever would have asked or felt the need to know. 684. Not that anything's been straight up unfair, but just a lot of like, okay. Which animal did Data's cat Spot revert into while infected with Barclay's protomorphosis syndrome? Well, he turned into, or she, at that point, she changes sexes somehow, because she was a male cat before this, but they wanted her to be pregnant, so all of a sudden she's a female cat. Continuity was looser and less important back then, even in late TNG. But anyway, she's an iguana. Yes. That is a very silly season 7 episode called Genesis. 2348. What composed the Delta Quadrant region known as underspace? Underspace? I don't right off know this. Seventh dimensional layers, parallel layer of subspace, network of subspace corridors, or subtime plane. This sounds like it could be that thing from Brida Chaotica. Or it could be the subspace corridors thing. I'm really not sure. These are really good secondary or like extra responses, because it's stumping me here. I think there's like 3 of these it could be. It is not seventh dimensional layers. It is the subspace corridors. Okay, man. You guys, I cannot still Star Trek. It's starting to feel like I've missed about half of these. 1257. I was doing this on a trip a week ago, and I wish I'd recorded that because I would look more impressive. Which Starfleet officer did Archer rekindle a romance with in Home? I don't love that episode, Home. That is the first episode in season 4 past the kind of retconning of the temporal Cold War. Ruby, Teles, Pierce, or Erica Hernandez. It is Hernandez, right? Gosh, it's been too long. But I think no. Okay, Pierce. Maybe they weren't an item? God, it's been too long. Yeah, now I feel silly. I can't even... I thought they were an item. 1167. Hernandez is cool, though. She's got the other NX ship. What did gray mode mean? This is Voyager. Running in stealth mode, running on reserve power only, operating a cloaking device, or command level imposter alert. It's either stealth mode or reserve power. I think it's like a stealth mode. Although I don't even know what that looks like with a Intrepid ship. Let's go with reserve power. That is correct. Okay, sweet. Well, this is a case where I'm glad I changed it. Is anybody watching right now doing better than I am with this? 1558. Anybody kind of playing along? Anybody know the Star Trek well enough to know most of what we're talking about here? We've just got a few people with us right now live, and I'd love to know how many of you guys are like big diehard Star Trek people that are familiar with most of what you're hearing right now. What is the name of Chancellor Gorkon's ship? Well, that is going to be Kronos 1. Kronos 1 from Star Trek 6, because that whole thing is an allegory for the Berlin Wall, and only Nixon could go to China, so of course he's got to have an Air Force One It's a little on the nose. 1363. Why were bounty hunters after Archer? Because he's the most boring captain in Star Trek. Oh, no, that's not the reason. For escaping Rura Penthe, for killing Duras, for angering the Emperor, for interfering in the Temporal Cold War. Well, the Klingons do not care about the Temporal Cold War, but I believe it is because he killed Duras. Oh, it says it's in, escaping Rura Penthe. Okay, well, I thought they were after him. Okay. That might have been dirty pool there a little bit, because I thought there were bounty hunters after him before he went to Rura Penthe, but whatever. 2102. I'm not going to argue with you because you're a book. 2102. What form of computer technology was employed on Constitution-class ships? Binary, oh, we're back to this again. Binary, bioneural, duotronic, or multitronic. I'm pretty sure it's duotronic. I think that's right. Yes! All right, well, I knew that. I knew a technical one, folks. Isn't that exciting? And it's just 2:30. We've been at this about half an hour so far. We've answered 26 questions, and we've only gotten 15 of them correct. But our track record is improving ever so slightly. 1338. What was the name of the Vulcan ship that rescued Mayweather and Reed from a comet? What episode is that? I do not know the name of that right off. Timur, the Nevar, the Talkur, or the Sharan. Nevar rings a bell. I know that's in there somewhere, but it's not that one. Timur, okay. That I was not going to know for sure. Yeah, we're still just at 56%. Yikes. 1941. In what quadrant was the planet Romulus located? Alpha, Beta, Gamma, or Delta? Okay, I get thrown off with these sometimes because a lot of the big, either Alpha Quadrant, a lot of the big Federation planets or Federation enemy planets are sitting kind of right between the line, and this is a place that I'm really rusty on, where I haven't looked at a map in a long time, and I'm not huge into that aspect of Star Trek, but I have looked at it before, and I've got the Star Trek books, because that's how geeky I am. So it's trying to make sure I don't mess this up. I think it's Alpha Quadrant, but there's that off chance that I'm wrong and it is Beta. It is Beta. See, that always freaks me out when you get into like Romulus, Kronos, like which ones are actually in Alpha, which ones are in Beta. And that's why it gets weird when you get into Deep Space Nine and the Dominion War is a battle for the Alpha Quadrant. I'm like, well, yeah, but there's all these other planets that are really important to us that are right in Beta. What weakens the microbrain of Valeria 3? Light, darkness, water, sand. Oh yes, the microbrain. What episode is that? That is early TNG. Boy, I'm falling into some pits here. It's light or darkness, right? I think it's light. Let's go with that. I am wrong. It's darkness. God bless me. Okay. I'm getting discouraged, folks. Just a little bit. 2325. I'm going to board myself up in a room and do nothing but Star Trek for like a month. What caused the anti-time eruption and all good things? Picard, somehow it was Picard's fault. 3 inverse tachyon pulses in different time periods. Yes, it's that one. Although I like how B is just Q, because I mean, Q claims that he has nothing to do with any of that, but he could have just made the whole thing up. 1062. My wife really dislikes all good things. And the more I've watched it since I've known my wife, the more I found myself unfortunately agreeing with her, but I still enjoy it. It's a guilty pleasure, though. I don't like Endgame anymore, though. Not the Avengers movie, but the Voyager episode. And the movie is a mixed bag, but that episode is just kind of bad. What species kidnapped and Scott Snyder's Batman Endgame? It's okay. What species kidnapped the crew as a workforce? See, I put it in quotation marks because workforce is an episode title. Emotep. I wish his name was Emotep, but this is not Stargate. Antarian, Quarren, or Terrellians. I think it's Quarren? Not the most memorable. Yeah, there we go. A bad guy name in anything. It's not like Anorax or anything. That's a cool bad guy name. Anorax. Year of Hell. So you got to bring up other things to prove to you guys that I've seen Star Trek before. The way this is going. 1198. I'm 17 for 31. I said that like I'm bragging. I'm not. I'm not. It's sad. Who played Q's son in Q2? That's Delancey's son. What's his name? Well, it's Keegan Delancey, unless his son's name is also John Delancey, but I'm pretty sure it's not. So we're going to go with Keegan Delancey. That is correct. One of the choices was Delancey Keegan, which you would only say if you knew nothing. 1580. 1580. Oh, actually, I looked at that wrong. It was not Delancey. Okay. Well, I'm glad that he didn't go that softball. What were the first words spoken by the Vulcan upon reaching Earth? In First Contact. Sometimes I wish they would give you the episode title, because what they'll do is, if you're reading this in order, it becomes pretty clear what we're talking about. But if you're jumping around, it'll just be like, what was the first thing the Vulcan said? I'm like, in what? And so then you have to look at the questions right before it, which are in fact referencing First Contact. Live long and prosper, peace and long life, greetings, or take us to your leader. They should have written that. I really wish that somehow Ron Moore could have gotten take us to your leader in a Star Trek movie. Is it live long and prosper, or peace and long life? I think he does just say live long and prosper. I'm pretty sure that's right. That is right. Okay. You miss enough of these, you start second guessing yourself, even with stuff that you know for sure. Now I'm going to have that theme stuck in my head all day. 536. What was the nickname Dr. Crusher disliked? This is from Data's Day, and the answer is Dancing Doctor. What? Well, that's just okay. So this is one where they just programmed it wrong, because that's what it is. It says, because this is claiming it's Bones, and that's not right. The nickname should just take my word. Just take my word for it. I'm not LeVar Burton. You do have to take my word for it. It's Dancing Doctor. That is the correct answer. So this says I'm 19 for 34, but I've gotten at least 20 of these right. 2469. Just trust me. I know what I'm talking about. Which episode featured the intendant of the Mirror Universe's only visit to the real universe? Resurrection, Through the Looking Glass, Shattered, or The Emperor's New Cloak? I think it probably was Emperor's New Cloak, which is god-awful, by the way. That is just a cartoon and not a fun one. Shattered is not a Mirror episode, and Through the Looking Glass is not... Well, you know what, though? No, I think she did it earlier, and they switched places. Am I right about that? See, like I said, I'm a little off on the DS9 Mirror episodes. I don't think it was New Cloak. I actually think it was Through the Looking Glass. Let's see if I'm right. Or, you know what? No, I think it was Resurrection, because that's Mirror Burial, and the Intendant is really the only other Mirror character they deal with in that episode. Okay. All right. I think that's it. Let's see if I'm right. Yes! I'm glad I thought about that a little harder. Because for a second, I was just going to assume it was Through the Looking Glass. But yes, now that I'm remembering it, she is in the Mira Boreal episode. That's right. Okay. 774. So we got a few more people watching right now. Sign off in the comments if you know who Boreal is. It's always fun to do these kind of Star Trek shows, because I never know who is watching actually has any idea what I'm talking about. Because this could sound like absolute Greek to people that have not watched very much Star Trek. How long, especially because we're jumping all over the place, how long in years, I love these kinds of questions, did the average Jem'Hadar soldier live? 10, 12, 13, or 15? I hate these. It's 12, 13, or 15. I know, because they made a big deal out of that in the, I think the episode is just called The Jem'Hadar, but it's the one with the like teenage-looking Jem'Hadar, who's played by, I can't think of his name right now. Aaron Eisenberg, who plays Nog, who sadly passed away a few years ago. Let's go with 13. Let's go with 13. 13 was the answer earlier that I missed, and it is not 13. It is, 15, okay. They make it a little longer than I thought. They don't get to Sweet 16, though. They die right before that, tragically. But at least they live longer than Ocampans. 1133. Tell me in the comments if you know what an Ocampan is. Somebody talk to me, I'm lonely. No, I'm kidding. What was the name of the Maquis ship Chakotay commanded? I don't know this, and I feel like I should know this. I don't think in the 15 years I ran a Star Trek club I ever asked this question. We did a lot of trivia in that club. Vatar, Liberty, Valjean, or Zola? I don't think it's Zola. Chakotay ship, the Arnhem Zola. Liberty seems just really on the nose and unlikely. So it's probably Vatar or Valjean. I guess we'll go with Vatar, but that is not right. It was Valjean, whatever that is. I didn't know that. And I don't recall ever hearing that. I mean, obviously it's got to be in Caretaker, but crazy. And I'm sure it's brought up in a few other places, but 1234. What are the Suliban space stations called? Helixes, spheres, complexes, or spiral cores? It's not the spheres. You don't want to mix that up with the season 3 Spear Builder stuff. Probably helixes, right? Because they got that whole thing going on. No. Yes, I got it right. I didn't see what else it could possibly be. It's been a while since I've watched the Enterprise, too. 893. I actually started watching a Discovery episode the other day, believe it or not, because I quit that show in the middle of season 3, and I have been occasionally a little bit curious, even though I just think that thing is a hot mess. And I had heard things about Unification 3. It was just nuts that they made an episode called that, based on TNG's Unification. And I got through about half of it, and then it was just getting late and I had to go to bed, but I actually wasn't hating it. I wonder if they remotely stick the landing. I've heard bad things, but I was kind of curious. But the situation that they have in the far-flung future in like season 3 in that show, because they're in like the 32nd, 33rd century, where the Romulans and the Vulcans have finally come together. They made unification happen, but they're no longer part of the Federation. The politics of all that was actually kind of interesting. I didn't hate some of the ideas in that, but I'll have to finish it. What did the prophets tell Sisko in regards to marrying Cassidy? That is not your destiny. Your destiny is your own. You're with us now. Follow your heart, my son. They certainly didn't say that. They said this is not your destiny. Pretty sure that's what they said. They didn't want him to do that. And neither did I, really. Cassidy Yates was awful. Great actress, though. And she's fantastic in The Orville. I'm glad she finally got to play somebody I like. I always thought she was a good actress, but I just never liked her characters and very often wasn't supposed to. Who became Grand Nagus after Zach retired? Didn't we answer this already? 997? Okay, so I guess you can wind up with some of the same questions. So not real sophisticated technology then. But that's okay. Let's make sure that we don't answer it incorrectly this time. I mean, we didn't last time either, but it'd be really funny if you said the wrong thing after you got it right before. Okay. Well, that'll help pad it out a little bit. At least it's one I knew. I hope they don't go... There's a couple of number questions I hope we don't wind up with again then. 875. Okay, I haven't seen a comment in a while, and it might be that people are just not commenting, but one second. I just want to double check and make sure. What is this icon? Oh no, people have been leaving comments. They just weren't popping up for a long time. Apologies, guys. I was feeling very alone. Let me look at some of this. Oh yeah, people have been trying to guess at these all the way through here. Everybody give me just a minute, because I'm going to answer a few of these comments real quick. HB Haga, yeah, the Federation is spread across both Alpha and Beta quadrants. Yeah, and it can just be hard to remember which planets are technically in which. But Haga knew it was Beta, and I wish I had been smart enough to have said that. Noah, I'm more of a casual Trek fan, so I'm bad at this. I feel like I'm looking that way right now. Anime fan says he's only got one of these right so far. Angel Castanet, you could do ASMR in your car. I mean, this is sort of like that. McCaffrey, we need a Can Cap Still Small to Smallville. Thomas Ledbetter left a little while ago. Thanks for checking in for a minute. Appreciate it. Sped of Askew, you are offered a full control. Give me about 5 minutes to answer comments, and then I'll get back to the trivia. You are offered full control of a Star Trek franchise, but you aren't allowed to ignore or retcon anything, and all currently running shows must get at least one more season in order to wrap up. Would you agree? For the chance to try to turn it around and just make a cool show, yeah, I would. Your continuity would be very broken, certainly. I mean, you really need to clean house and I think eliminate everything canonically post-Enterprise. There are even some things I'd love to lose from Enterprise, but, you know, you can't pick and choose that hard, I don't think. But anyway, but you just make a show that's isolated enough that it doesn't really matter what it's touching, I think. So yes, I would. Thomas Ledbetter, no, Valiant is the episode where the cadets take over the ship after their captain dies. Oh, that's right. It's not Red Squad. Okay, I remember that now. Noel Anderson says he would do TNG really well. Anime fan says TNG. Okay, now I'm caught up with these. Let me blow down to the bottom here and see if there's anything else I want to answer. Thomas Ledbetter. I actually have a random question. You were talking about Smashing Pumpkins the other day, was I? When talking about Watchmen. Oh, yes. Do you have a favorite song of theirs? Yes, I is my favorite Smashing Pumpkins song. McCaffrey, watching these Strange New Worlds. Yeah, I liked a lot about the first season, and there were a couple episodes in 2 that I thought were solid, but overall, I thought it kind of fell off a cliff, and it's just not taking itself seriously enough. And I'm okay with some comedy in the occasional comedy episode, of course, but I watched a video where a guy called it young adult Star Trek, and I have not been able to look at it the same way since then. I think he's absolutely right about that, and I could live with that if it stayed more at the standard it had in the first season, but once you get into the musical and the Lower Decks crossover and all of that, uh, it's just gotten too cartoony for my taste. It's still more watchable than any other new Trek, certainly, don't get me wrong. But I also have just kind of some fundamental issues with some of the stuff with Pike in that. I think he's way too in the background in his own show. And I don't like where they leave him off with the cliffhanger. I just think they're kind of throwing him under the bus. But I'd love to think that they might sober up a little bit in the third season, but the way they keep talking about it is we just keep throwing out all these crazy concepts, and I'm like, okay, so that's the show you're making now. People are enjoying it, and that's good, but again, it's still much more watchable than their other shows. Haga, my only complaint with Strange New Worlds, the writers want them to do some of the things Kirk did before Kirk was in the center seat. That, and just as a TOS prequel, it doesn't work, and they don't care. They're so kind of anti-continuity that stuff's a little bit frustrating. So you just have to enjoy it as much on its own terms as you can while they're still doing prequel-y things. Like, you can't have... minor spoilers for this, but you can't have Spock and Chapel attempt a relationship before TOS. That was an unrequited love. Like, neither of them had ever spoken what they felt about each other. Except they had a fling for a minute where they were almost in a serious relationship. Okay. And stuff like that. Anyway, let's get back to this, shall we? It is unfortunate that we can't talk about Star Trek without getting in a new Trek, but it's understandable. It's okay. What identity did Arn Darvin take on in the episode Trials and Tribulations? I want to say that was, let's see, Cyrano Jones, Kang, Barry Waddle, or Worf's great-grandfather. Didn't even have a name, just Worf's great-grandfather. Okay. That's very silly. But yes, Barry Waddle. What a goofy name. It's a ridiculous name. Well, I figured out how to pull comments up now when I need them, so that's good. I didn't even know what that icon did, but I'm finally learning how to do this on my phone after all these years. 1678. Who portrayed the Borg Queen in First Contact? Well, that was Alice Krieg. Not Angelica Houston, Susanna Thompson, or Louise Fletcher, but Susanna Thompson played her in Voyager, and then Alice Krieg came back and played her again, which complicated the whole thing, because before that you could say one body died and then they had a different host, but now she looks like that again, so okay. That's the actress that played Oliver Queen's mother in Arrow. 1219. Let me pull up comments again. Sorry about my hand, everybody. Sorry about my hand. Senior Sticks, $2 super chat. Idea: Star Trek 24-hour streams. Cap can still trek. I wouldn't do it a full 24 hours at once anymore. I had a really bad experience the last time I tried that, and so now the long streams, I'll do 12. I'll break them up. But that's not a bad idea. And I have certainly considered it. At least, some fun long Star Trek marathons. But the idea of getting on camera and watching every episode of Star Trek with you guys is a fun idea. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it, man. Senior Six. Worf grandfather is his name. It's a great grandfather. It's just his name. No, his name is Worf. Also, why did they just say Colonel Worf? Because it was Colonel Worf. Stone Gasman, hi, how's it going? Hi, Cap, I just met Tom Morga in Nashville. He signed my copy of Motion Picture playing Nimoy's stunt double when Spock enters the V'ger orifice. Hilarious. That's great. I don't think I've met anybody that worked on Motion Picture. Clone Army 66. I love all the Star Trek commentaries you guys have done over the years. Thanks a lot, man. Yeah, if I did that, obviously I would end up rehashing quite a few things, but if there was some interest, I would consider it, certainly. I'd have to decide if I was gonna try to bring on co-hosts or just do it by myself. Like, I know Brandon would want to do some of that. Yeah, I would definitely consider it, especially because regular Star Trek Club just hasn't been in the cards lately with my schedule, having to drive Jason around and things like that. It's hard to see my wife in the evenings anymore, and so that's why so much of what we do is really late at night now. But yeah, that's a thing I would definitely consider doing. It's gonna be a while before I can do a lot of those long marathon streams. John and I are gonna finally come back and do Smallville season 7 next month, I think. And he and I have some other things we want to do when we finally finish Smallville. But yeah, Star Trek streams would be wonderful. Now I'm stuck on this. Now you guys have me really wanting to figure that out. What was the top speed of the NX class ships? That was warp 5. That's a softball question. Thanks for the softball question there, book. Oh, it's already 3 o'clock. Goodness. I'll go another 15 minutes or so. I gotta go gas my car up before I pick up Jason. 15:41. What mountain was Kirk climbing at the beginning of Star Trek V? And you know I was climbing it because it was there. It was El Capitan. That is correct. 27 out of 44. Well, we're all the way back up to 61%. So we're pulling a low D again. But it looks like there's some folks in the comments that have been doing a little bit better with this today than I have. Sound off in the comments. What is the last episode of Star Trek you saw? And I'm going to say like again, pre-New Trek stuff. Because I'm just curious. Like TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise. What's the last episode that you happen to see? 1658. Who directed the last film to feature the Star Trek original series cast? That would have been Nicholas Meyer with Star Trek VI. That is correct. Shatner, of course, did the one right before that, and Nimoy did the 2 before that, and Meyer did Wrath of Khan, so he only directed 2. He did work on 4, though. He wrote 4, I do believe. And then Robert Wise directed motion picture. 273. I do not remember the name of the guy that directed Generations. That never sticks with me. 273. What killed the crew of the USS Exeter? Phaser on overload, this is TOS, faulty blood analyzer unit, the ship self-destructed, or a virus? What episode are we in here? And they're not giving me an episode title. They're jumping all around with different episodes. So added degree of difficulty. Again, I'm really rusty on my TOS. Like, I should know this. Is that Naked Time? I'm going to go with a virus and hope I'm right. When all else fails and it's TOS, it's probably a virus. Yes! Again, pardon my hand. Next time, Stone Gassman, David Carson directed Generations. I never remember that. Next time, I'll try to pull up the comments here on my tablet. HB Haga, most recent Sons and Daughters. Okay, cool. McCaffrey binged all of Enterprise last year. Neat. Senior Sticks says Star Trek Animated. You watch TAS, but you don't know what episode. Senior Six, do you play Star Trek Online? I have. I couldn't really get into it, so I've never really gotten into that. I played a couple hours here and there. Kind of just explored it. Oh, Lower Decks, okay. 60. to this day, I have hardly been able to get through an entire episode of Lower Decks. I've tried and I've tried. I just can't do it. They know their Star Trek. Like, some of the references are, I guess, kind of fun, but that's all it is. And I don't know. You guys got me on a new Trek again. It's not funny. I can't do it. Who is, and like, it's not what I want anyway, but like, I don't mean to be a prude about it. If it was really funny, I could enjoy it like a Futurama or something. I've not laughed at one time, and I jumped all over the place with season 1. I would get through like 5-10 minutes of an episode, and I couldn't do it. Who was the only crewman unaffected by accelerated aging after visiting the colonists on Gamma Hydra 4? Well, that of course is Chekhov, right? Pretty yeah, because Commodore Stalker is the guy at the very beginning who's like I'm 29, 8:15, flight 8:15. What are people saying here? Scorpion is wonderful. Yeah, Elliot Ratcliffe. It's one of my absolute favorites. Some gas, but I only know the movies and not really all the series. Well, watch some Star Trek, man. Because the best stuff is in the shows. 8:15. 8:15. What was non-traditional about the Ferengi Pell? Pell didn't like profit. Pell loved Quark. Pell cheated customers. Pell was a female who negotiated business. It's D. I do believe. What? Oh, okay. It's B. That was not immediately ringing a lot of bells, but I thought maybe there was more than one. 1688. How much shore leave had Picard accumulated by the end of the Baku mission? Freaking hate these. 210 days, 310, 375, or 410. Who cares? Yeah, he's got that line to the love interest in that at the end. It's A or B, I think. Let's say 310. Hey, I got that right. That's amazing. McCaffrey, a lot. H.B. Haga, many. Elliot Ratcliffe, as far as new Trek goes, Picard Season 3 has its highlights. You can overlook the first 2 seasons. Yeah, and I've talked about this ad nauseum. I got 4 episodes in, and I just couldn't do it. I just quit. When I say I couldn't do it, I couldn't get into it. I may finally finish it. My wife and I were watching it together, and we just kept looking at each other, going, "We don't get what anybody's talking about." It was, and we watched the first 2 seasons together, and really hated it, and we weren't even going to bother with 3. And then everybody and his dog was like, "No, it finally got really good," and it was marginally better, I guess, but that's not saying anything. And I just couldn't take it seriously. There's a bunch of stuff that drove me nuts with that, and all I've ever heard anybody say really is just nostalgia stuff. Just getting to see the crew back together, and they're rebuilding the Enterprise D and all of that, and I'm like, that doesn't make it a good show. And so I don't know. I don't want to take it away from anybody that enjoyed that, but I've still never gone back to it because I just couldn't see what anybody's talking about. I was like, if I'm 4 episodes in and I still feel about the same way I did about it with the first 2 seasons. Anyway, 1663. I'm getting PTSD again, you guys. What was Kirk's dog's name? Oh, well, that was Butler. He had a dog in Generations named Butler. I'll do a couple more of these, and then I'm going to need to get going here. Thanks for hanging out with me on a Sunday afternoon, you guys. And again, if you want to come back and spend some more time with me tonight, I'm going to be doing yet another Batman 89 commentary. And this will be probably the one where we get to look at a completely different cut, because we're going to do the fan silent film version that was made about 3 years ago. And like I mentioned earlier, that is on internetarchive.org, and there's a link to that in the community tab. I just posted that about an hour ago, and you can watch it along with me. I'm going to do that real late tonight at 11 o'clock Central Time, and if you can't be around that late, you can watch the replay on Patreon. So I don't leave those live. I toggle them unlisted, but you can watch them at patreon.com/geekvolution at just the $2 tier. 1851, what was Riker's mother's name? Wilma, Betty, Diane, or Kim? Hilarious. I don't actually know that, and I feel like I should. That's crazy. His father is Kyle Riker. The fact that he threw in both Wilma and Betty makes me think it's one of those. But Diana's kind of sticking out to me, too. I don't actually know that. That's crazy. It is not Diane. It is Betty. Wow. I'm going to need to commit that to memory. That feels like a thing I should know. Okay, let's do one more real quick. 1452. And if you guys enjoyed this, maybe I'll come back and do another one at some point when I'm just sitting here in the parking lot. 1452. Are we into movies here? We haven't had a lot of movie questions. What Vulcan proverb did Spock try to quote to convince Kirk to escort the Klingon Chancellor in an undiscovered country? Only Nixon can go to China. I just quoted that earlier even. I just said it. All right, well, 33 out of 52. I feel like the only thing I proved is that I have seen Star Trek before, which is not something I needed to prove. I mean, like I've got that. I probably didn't need to answer 52 Star Trek questions, but well, there we go. 52. It's a good round number. It's the number of cards in a playing card deck. Anyway, let me check comments one more time before I get going here. There's another super chat. Let me grab that real quick. Senior Sticks, yellow super chat. We need a spin-off series about Picard's dog. Yeah. Well, and he had a dog in Picard, but his dog before that in Generations was Butler. No, this reminds me of an episode of Star Trek. Elliot Ratcliffe. Cat representing the Powerpuff Girls on a Star Trek stream is why I come to this channel. Thanks, man. Well, I might have worn a Star Trek shirt if I'd known I was going to do this, but I came up with this kind of just before I did it. So here we are. Here we are. Stone Gasman, that actually makes sense considering the Joker was inspired by Conrad Vaight's performance from The Man Who Laughs in 1928. No, it does, and because that movie is just so neo-noirish in the first place. I have not looked at that whole thing, but when it came out, I skimmed around a little bit, and the color correction is really neat in that. So it's not just straight up black and white, like different sections of it. It is black and white, but then they tint it different colors, like some of it's purple, some of it's blue. It's really cool looking. And it just uses the Elfman soundtrack. Hold on, sorry about my hand again, guys. Just checking the rest of these comments. I'll do this differently next time. All right, well, I'm going to get going. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys real late tonight and for other streams later on this week on Geekvolution. I was Captain Logan. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye, everybody.